Good evening. Thank you all for being here, and let me thank as many of our candidates and elected officials already have to thank the Kegels. The Kegels get it right. They're not only concerned community citizens, they care about what happens in this country, and they every year, every election cycle, give of their time and their resources to make sure that everybody here knows who the candidates are, knows what their issues are, and gets out there and supports them. Let's have a hand for the Kegel family. You know, folks, ever since that trial down in Florida a couple of weeks ago, the Zimmerman trial, a lot of folks around the country are rediscovering stand your ground. Well, we got news for them down here in the 11th District and in Georgia. We've been standing our ground since this country began, and we don't aim to give up now. We are stand your ground people in Georgia. We are stand your ground people in the 11th District. And what we need to do is we need to send a message to Washington to a back-down president. He doesn't just stand his ground. He's a back-down president. We have a back-down attorney general. They don't even support, really, the right to self-defense. Folks, when I was the U.S. attorney, when I was your U.S. attorney under President Reagan, I stood my ground on your behalf against the criminals, the con artists, the drug dealers, the money launderers across the Northern District of Georgia. When I represented the 7th District in Congress, I stood my ground for your ground against the last scoundrel we had in the White House. Does anybody remember William Jefferson Clinton? The only elected president ever impeached, a stain that he will never live down. What we need to do is we need to send these folks packing the way we sent Bill Clinton packing, the way we sent criminals packing, and we need to stand our ground against them. I have the seniority to do that, the experience to do that, the track record to do that. You know it, we know it. Help us out, send Bob Barr back to Washington to stand our ground against the forces of evil. Thank you.
Is Alan Levine. Alan?
Well, I think that will work according to Bob.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alan Levine, and I approve my message. The reason that I'm here today is because I am disgusted with Washington. You can hear from my voice, I'm not from Cherokee County. I was born in England. I moved here when I was 21, many years ago. I became a naturalized citizen in 1970. I am really disgusted in Washington because I know what happens when a government overspends. A government is spending 40 cents on the dollar of borrowed money from China and floating bonds. If this continues, we will go bankrupt. In just 10 years, China's economy will outpace us and our economy, and the dollar as a reserve currency will be lost to the Chinese yuan. I've seen this in England. And I'm the only candidate here that has seen what happens when a country devalues its currency coming to the United States, and you will not like it. I'm the only candidate here running for the 11th District who has a website that actually has solutions on it. It isn't just a picture of me with a button saying donate. So if you want to see exactly what I stand for, and exactly what I want to do, and how I want to do it, and what I'll do when you send me to Washington, visit the website and read not only the 30 seconds left, what I want to do, but I've written over 100 articles specifically relating to current events and what my opinion is. So I do believe in speaking the truth, and I do believe in doing what's right for America, and I want to save this country. We have to remove the current crop of politicians from Washington. That's what's destroying us. Anyway, please visit the website, AlanLevineCongress.com, spelled L-E-V-E-N-E. I have to stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate Levine. Next, we're going to have Representative Ed Lindsay. Ed, I'm going to give you a microphone to check out there.
Good evening. Everybody doing well? I want to agree with my good friend Bob Barr on thanking the sponsors of this. But I also want to add one other thing. I want you guys tonight when you're at home, to add our good friend and Representative Calvin Hill to your prayers. He has been a great representative for Cherokee County. I've been honored to work with him for the last 10 years. My name is Ed Lindsay. I'm running for Congress, and I want to work very hard to earn your support. I'm very proud that I have received the endorsements of your sheriff, Roger Garrison. I've also received the endorsement of the mayor of Waleska, Mayor Jones, as well as my good friend Mandy Ballinger, a state representative. They know, as I know, that we have to change things fundamentally in Washington. We have to send people who are problem solvers and who are conservative reformers. And that's what I have worked on so hard in the General Assembly for the past decade. I have done so because I understand that my job as your representative is not to deliver edicts from the Gold Dome or the U.S. Capitol, but to take your wisdom and your concerns to the table where decisions are made. That's the kind of state representative I've been, and that's the type of congressman I'm going to be. I appreciate what Bob told you about Stand Your Ground and how Georgia has that legislation. I helped get that legislation passed as part of the House leadership. I have also helped cut spending here in the state of Georgia. I have worked to fight illegal immigration here in the state of Georgia. I have worked to fight Obamacare by bringing real market solutions to medical problems here in the state of Georgia. I have worked on numerous other situations here in the state of Georgia, bringing conservative reforms. As a result of that effort, I have received a 100% rating from the American Conservative Union, an A rating from the NRA, and this year I received the Legislative Champion Award from the National Federation of Independent Businesses. My time is up, but I do want to say one more thing about Calvin, if I may, just about Calvin. As part of the House leadership, he's our person. I just want to give
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. I know we all share those sentiments. State Senator Barry Loudermilk, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here again. I don't know, somebody said it was warmer this year than last year. I think I'm a little cooler than we were standing here last year. I don't know if anybody else remembers that, but it was pretty warm. Look, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about us. You know, we looked at, and I appreciate the Kegels, and not only just at providing this place, but, you know, farming is a great example of American individualism. It's rugged. I mean, what you see out here, it's beautiful. But it's beautiful because they work hard at it. You know, when you look at farming, it's nature that brings the bounty, but it's nature that fights against everything that you do. Whether it's the wind, it's the rain, it's pestilence, it's drought, it's flood, it's continually fighting against nature. Freedom is a lot the same. Nature gives us freedom, but our founding fathers said that government in its natural state is always going to be trying to take it from you. You're going to continually fight against the government that Thomas Paine said was a necessary evil. The problem we have is a lot of people go to, whether it's Washington or the state capitol, they go with great ideas, they get there, and they get comfortable. They quit working the fields, they quit plowing, they quit weeding, they quit fighting against the pestilence. We have to continue to fight if we're going to win, if we're going to restore our freedom. You know, as a veteran, I was served on the honor guard, and I was taught, you know, if you see something wrong with the flag, you never hesitate. You make sure it's wrong and you go fix it. And I saw the flag flying upside down over here, and I thought here for a moment it was a sign of distress. A lot of us feel like Americans in distress, but when the flag flies upside down, it means we're in distress and we need help from the outside. We don't need help from the outside. We don't need China. We don't need Venezuela. We can fix it here. We can fix America. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to call on Larry Rosinski.
Hi, I'm Larry. I'm your neighbor here in Cherokee County. And my lovely family over to my left, proud to say that Not only are your neighbors, but my wife and I are going to be grandparents. My father was a POW prisoner of war. I remember back as a child the leadership skills and the role model I learned from my father. I served nearly 3 decades in the military. I've been to nearly all the memorable conflicts post-Vietnam that you can recall. I've worked in the State Department for 3.5 years, senior military advisor under leadership of Condoleezza Rice. I've published internationally on China threat to the Western Hemisphere and Foreign Department of Defense. I'm a Middle East expert on a 39 threat functional area. This election is about many issues. These issues that you know, and that's why you're here. In this election, it's about character. Character has fingerprints. It tells you where you've been. When I came home, I left the job, the work that I loved. I came home to do the 4th Command. I lost my mom on April 4th. I gave a promise to my father in 2000 that I'd take care of Mom. It was very difficult and hard. But I'm glad that I've used those graces very well and set an example for many and helped many with that same problem. I can assure you, with the health care of Obama and defunding, leadership is what we need. Leadership is what I have. And what I'll bring from Cherokee County is not only my skills that I've known for problem solving on active duty and working in the community, but also the Georgia Republican Party's Veterans Affairs Chairman for the last 2.5 years, and serving throughout the Georgia in 143, 159 counties that the Republicans hold, helping them and reaching out and having representatives. Ladies and gentlemen, the issues we know them. Defunding Obamacare, national security.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you. Finally, candidate Tricia Pridemore.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and happy birthday. My name is Tricia Pridemore, and I'm a candidate for Congress right here in Georgia's 11th District. Because I know that the thing that we want more than anything else is to preserve our freedom, the freedom of the individual, the freedom for each and every one of us to be able to work, provide for our families, and have this grand opportunity known as the American Dream. I'm the 3rd generation small business owner. I can tell you the great story that my husband and I and our family have had over the course of our lives. But at the end of the day, let me make sure that you understand this. There is no other country besides the United States of America where my story is possible. I've created jobs both from the private sector and from the public sector. And I'm running because I think that it's time for us to bring a fresh perspective to Washington. Some new energy that's going to work incredibly hard on behalf of every single one of us in the 11th District. Knowing that at the end of the day, what each and every one of us want is to preserve our freedom and make sure that we can maintain this beautiful land of opportunity. Check us out on Facebook. Look us up online, PrideMoreForCongress.com. I'd be honored to have your support.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the question period for these candidates. We do have several questions. I'm going to start with them, and we'll see how far through them we get. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. And the first question will actually not let you sit down long, Tricia. We're going to start with Tricia Pridemore on this, and that is, how do you plan to make an impact for 11th District constituents immediately as a freshman in the House? And we're going to ask each candidate this question. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's a great question. The same way that every other freshman does it in the United States House of Representatives. They're bringing a new voice, and they're bringing that time out in the field, talking with voters throughout the district, making sure that they're able to send that fresh voice up on behalf of the constituents. One of the first things that I would do, though, is make sure that we have a constituent services office right here in Cherokee County. Cherokee County represents 30% of this district. Your voice is incredibly important, not only here within the district, but most importantly in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. The question next to Larry Mrozinski. Now, I've been practicing on that.
You're doing fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in our district that we have is representation. What I've been hearing is exploratory campaign, reaching out to folks is that you feel disenfranchised. You don't feel that you're part of the solution. And the number one thing that keeps coming back in this is they don't do what they say when they go to Washington, D.C. Character has fingerprints. It tells you where you've been. You go with those that you trust, those that have shown the track record over the decades. In our community, we need to have representation at the district level and also at the town meetings. I will tell you this, when I make my decision to run, not only will help be on the way, but I will be the first one into those meetings and the last one. We will have them published. You are my strategist. There's no paid strategist. I will not have any in my campaign when I announce. The people are the strategists. You are the ones that tell the candidates. And ladies and gentlemen, I will not do this. I will not massage any issue to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. You definitely do. Thank you.
All right, the same question, and you need to repeat it, let me know, goes to Senator Barry Loudermilk.
Well, thank you very much. The whole idea of being in our form of government as a representative Republican is to represent the will and the interests of the people. The only way you can represent that is if you're with the people. I'm a native Georgian. I work with my hands daily. I have a small business. I also work in the community. I see my good friend Joe Robert back here runs a mechanic shop. Many times I sit in the office with Joe and we talk about the issues, not just the issues that we are facing as a nation, but the issues that he faces running his maintenance shop. My friend Don Stevens, we ride around in his car throughout Cherokee County. We talk about the problems that are facing the economy. Look, a lot of people, the old adage is, what are you going to bring back home? Well, what most people want is less. We want less government. I'm not here to bring back a little bit of bacon. I'm here to stop the government from taking the hog.
Thank you. Next, Representative Ed Lindsay, the same question.
Thank you. The best way to determine how someone's going to operate in the future is to take a look at how they've done in the past. As I stated earlier, my guiding principle as a representative has always been that my job is to take your concerns and your wisdom to the table where decisions are made. That's how I have been successful in dealing with cutting spending, cutting taxes, attacking illegal immigration, attacking Obamacare, attacking those who prey upon the weakest folks in our society, attacking the problems in education and the need for reform. Those were all ideas that came to me by my constituents. That's the same attitude I'm going to take to Congress as your United States Congressman. I know I can do it because I've done it. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. And next to Alan Levine.
Thank you. During one of these events recently, I was told by a member of the audience that I talk funny because I don't sound like I'm from the South, even though I'm from the South of England. If elected, I'll be the first English American to be elected to Congress. I will get tremendous press for this whole district in Europe, and I will get press from the American press because I know how to remove incumbents. The problem we have in this country is we cannot remove the incumbents. Once they go to Washington, they're there forever unless they choose to retire. I have a method, which you can read it out on my website, about how to force the incumbents in Washington to retire. So thank you. Just check the website to get more information.
Thank you. And finally, the question goes to Bob Barr.
Thank you, Rebecca. Over the last several years, what I've done is I've been teaching constitutional law, practicing law, serving on the NRA board, helping folks in this community and communities across the country. When I served in the Congress previously, I did the things that other folks can only dream about and talk about. I actually helped balance the budget as we did in 1997. I actually voted and worked to reduce taxes. I actually voted and worked to protect our Second Amendment rights. But the interesting thing about the question Rebecca asked is, what will I do as a freshman up there, folks? I won't be a freshman. I go back to the Congress with 8 years of seniority. That's how you get things done up in Washington. A lot of folks don't know that, but I will take the experience that I have from working in the community once again over the last several years, the work that I did working to balance the budget, protect our rights in Washington previously, and put those to work as an 8-year senior member of Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, and we'll start with this one. We'll go down the table and we'll start with Senator Barry Loudermilk. This one is to everyone, and would you have voted for the recent farm bill? If so, which one, Senate or House, and why or why not?
Well, that's a very good question. There's a lot of problems with the recent farm bill. First of all, the Senate version, 80% of it had to do with food stamps. What that has to do with agriculture, I have no idea. I think the House of Representatives did the right thing by splitting those out. But the problem that remains is there's a lot of subsidy in there. It's a continued amount of subsidy. Even in its current version, I could not have supported what's happening in the farm bill, because what we did is in the previous, the farm bills had put it up for a review every 5 years. We made these subsidies permanent. They're permanent at this point. The problem with farming is too much government, it's too much taxes, it's too much regulation. If we were to remove those, as I've helped do in the state Senate here, then let's let the farmers be individual rugged as they are, and they won't need the subsidies.
Thank you. Next, the same question, Mr. Levine.
I am known for being blunt, and I am known for being honest. I cannot give an effective answer about the farm bill because I have not done as much research as I should. However, I focused my time on key fundamentals for stopping spending in Washington across the board. So I'll do some research on the farm bill, and I'll write yet another article about that, and I'll give my opinions on their website, which you can go to alanlevinecongress.com, and you'll read exactly, after my research, what I think and feel about the farm bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Tricia Pridemore.
The Farm Bill never should have been attached to food stamps in the first place. 63% of our federal budget is made up of entitlement programs. Of that, 44% is Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. You cannot tell me that we cannot help America's farmers, which, by the way, I believe in, and I believe that every single American in the sound of my voice who loves to eat also believes in America's farmers, knows the necessity for the Farm Bill. But at the end of the day, the Farm Bill should not be attached to food stamps.
Thank you. Next, Bob Barr.
No. That was the answer to the question, not to Rebecca.
Thank you.
Give Bob your eloquence. I like that. No, I wouldn't do it either. And let me tell you why. We cannot continue going down the same road of simply increasing spending year in and year out and somehow hope to balance the budget. That's why I support a bill that was presented just this last year that will actually go in and reduce the size of government by 1% a year. That's all we got to do. Not reduce the rate of increase, but reduce the size of government by 1% a year. If we do that, we can balance the budget in less than 10 years, and then we can move forward with a constitutional amendment to balance the budget from here on out. But we cannot do that until we first start taking a hard look at programs like the Farm Bill and saying we can't afford it anymore. We've got to start trimming everything across the board. There can be no sacred cows, and that includes the Farm Bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And Larry?
Thank you, Rebecca. The answer is no. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're showing unleashes the American farmer as well as the entrepreneur. And this is what's going on in America. When we have discussions to deal with food stamps and we attach it to what we grow, and then they bring in ethanol, increase it, tell us that people don't have food, whether it's Appalachia or somewhere around the world. Get the government out of our food because it's part of national security. And I'll tell you one thing more. They won't tell you this up here, but you've got by Smithfield Foods in front of congressional hearings. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got China taking the hand out the back door while you're trying to bring home the bacon. Food is a national security issue, and Congressman Rosinski, when he announces, I can tell you that help will be on the way. We will not only balance that budget, but we're going to get the food modernization bill relooked, which they passed at 12 midnight, and folks that are in this room know that very well, that was wrong for the American public, for our health, and for our children. It will stop.
Thank you. All right. question, and we'll start with Bob Barr. Will you vote to replace Speaker Boehner?
He may or may not be a candidate in 2 years. I'm not going to commit in advance if I don't even know who the candidates are. I will tell you that there are some good folks up there, and I hope that they do put themselves forward.
Thank you. Next question.
I too want to see who's going to run before I commit to that. We have a lot of good folks up already in Washington, including a lot of good folks here in Georgia that I would like to see step up from various leadership positions. But here's one criteria that I'm going to absolutely insist upon before I vote for anyone, for any leadership position, and that is no bill goes to the floor of the United States House of Representatives unless it is supported by a majority of the Republican caucus. We are not going to have bills passed by the Democrats with just a few smattering Republicans voting for it. That is an absolute line in the sand for me when it comes to anyone who asks for my vote as part of the House Republican leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll answer that. Term limits. Ladies and gentlemen, it's well overdue for leadership to rotate, as well as anyone out there in this audience. It's high time that folks started understanding that we too can all run for office. Whether it's Boehner, the Speaker, we need to rotate that leadership. And I can tell you right now, they'll say repeal, replace. I want to hear defund. Now, if that's what the Speaker needs to do, fine. But what Rosinski's going to be looking for in this congressional delegation, when I announce, it's going to be leadership. And let's see if they can stand up and make that happen. But this Cherokeean, I'm going to deliver. You're going to have something you never had before. It's intellect with delivery and with hometown pride. We're going to make that happen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that's not the first time I've been asked that question, but it is hypothetical because we don't know what the choices are. It's just like one of you guys saying, are you going to commit to vote one of these guys? Well, they may not be in the race by the time the election comes. So it's the same thing. The criteria is going to be who stands for the Constitution, who stands for liberty, who is the best candidate. I mean, if it's between Boehner and Pelosi, who do you want it to? But I also want to address something that was brought up earlier about the majority of the Republicans have to be for a bill before it can go to the floor. There's a danger in that because I've been a Republican all of my life. I've been grassroots Republican. But you know, a lot of times in Washington, the Republicans have taken a very moderate stance, and there's a lot of stuff that we need to get done, and sometimes it's a conservative movement that we need to get a conservative bill to the floor to get something to vote on, and that could work against us.
Thank you. Mr. Levine, the same question.
This one works. I'm actually going to answer the question. The answer is yes, I will vote to replace him. The question behind the question is that when he ran for election as an incumbent in Ohio, nobody ran against him. He is a thorn in the side of President Obama. You would think the Democrats would run somebody to replace him so that by nature if he was defeated, he would not be to continue to be the Speaker. But they didn't because the system is broken. Please visit the website and see how to fix it.
Thank you. And Tricia Pridemore?
It all depends upon who's running, but I can tell you who I'll never vote for Speaker, and that's Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask the last question of these candidates. I will start with Larry Marinsky and move down the table. And the question is, with every budget passed having a deficit, will you ever vote for a deficit budget?
Absolutely not. Last one we had was $445 billion. And we talk on both sides of our mouths, ladies and gentlemen. You know that, plain talk. The answer is no. We need to balance this budget, and we need to say it not in weasel words. We need to be very clear, today and tomorrow. I will not be part of any deficit increases by raising the debt ceiling. I want a balanced budget amendment. I want to make sure that we take all the rhetoric we hear every 2, 4, and 6 years when we run for office and actually put it into practice. And that's what Colonel Rosinski is going to bring to the race when I announce. Help us on the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Next, Representative Ed Lindsay.
Well, like I spoke to y'all a few minutes ago, getting back to that old joke, how do you eat an elephant, or in our case, how do you eat a donkey? One bite at a time. We've got to bring the size of the deficit down, and we've got to bring it down to a point where we can actually balance the budget and pass a constitutional amendment. That's why I support the 1% solution, which will actually bring down the size of the government by 1% a year over a 6-year period, and then we will have a balanced budget. And then at that point, we can pass a constitutional amendment to put it in place permanently. That's what I'm going to be fighting for, is realistic solutions on how we bring down the deficit, how we balance the budget, how we bring our financial house in order, so that we've already mortgaged my children's future. All 3 of them are back there. I'm just trying to avoid mortgaging their children's future. And I ask for your help, and I ask for your support. And Lindsay.us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Bob Barr.
Thank you. As I think I mentioned earlier, and if I didn't, I'll have to mention it again. Back in 1997, the last year that the first year in 40 years that the government of the United States of America and the Congress of the United States of America passed a balanced budget and actually balanced the budget was in 1997. I was part of that group that did it. Folks, we can do it. If we have folks up there that know how to get it done, that stand on principle, and that are not afraid to take on the powers that be, whether they be Democrat, Republican, or Independent. I also am a proud signer of the Americans for Tax Reform, no new tax pledge. What we do not need is we do not need what the U.S. government and Harry Reid is now doing, calling for $1 trillion in new, what do they call, Rebecca, investments. They don't call it new taxes, but they are trying to raise our taxes $1 trillion. As I did before, I will do again as your congressman from the 11th district. Stand up against deficit spending, reduce deficit spending, and do it without raising taxes.
Thank you. Christopher Pridemore.
Thank you. First and foremost, we have to lower our debt. And to do that, the very first thing we've got to do is cut off the spigot. We've got to stop spending the money that we've been spending. And the first place that I'm going to look is at the bureaucracies of Washington, D.C. If there's anybody that's in the sound of my voice that has ever worked with the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Education, or the Department of Labor, you know that there is an extreme amount of bloat in the size of our federal government. And it's time that we take an active role in cutting the overhead and administrative and organizational costs of the federal government. It's the kind of work that I've done for the state of Georgia, and the same kind of work that I'm going to take to D.C.
Thank you. Alan Levine.
People do magic in Washington. Even have a balanced budget bill, and it will be bypassed in a second. The problem is there are so many techniques that have been developed over the years to keep on spending that there is very little chance that just by passing bills that the spending will actually stop. The only way to stop the spending is to eliminate or remove the incumbents in office. If you do not do that, they have enough seniority and power to spend as much money that they want and keep kicking the can down the road. And eventually that can will go off the edge of the cliff. We're all in the same boat, and it doesn't make any sense to say that one end of the boat is sinking, I'm fine. We have to stop spending by removing the current incumbents. Thank you. Please visit the website.
Thank you. And finally, Senator Barry Loudermilk.
You know, it's really easy to answer a question hypothetically, say what you're going to do. I can tell you what I've done. Maybe the only person sitting at this table that's actually had the courage to actually vote against the budget. Several years ago, the state budget was proposed to us. We had a surplus. The government was spending it instead of sending it back to the people. There were 6 of us in the House who voted against that budget, and we were in the majority, but it was wrong. Leadership and those with seniority came. There was a lot of arm twisting. We had a lot more that was going to be on board with us, but several come and said, well, I've got so much seniority in the House, I can't upset leadership, may lose position. These types of things take courage. They take people who will stand up, will make a stand, who's not in it for themselves. Thomas Jefferson said the only fallacy he saw in our Constitution was that there was no constraint on borrowing money, because that is a natural control on government. And because we don't have a balanced budget requirement, that's why government has grown, because they can just borrow the money to build another bureaucracy, another agency, another program. We have have to balance the budget.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask you all to please join me in giving this group of candidates a big round of applause for being here with us this evening. I also want to let you know, if you guys will just wait here for a second, there are several representatives from other campaigns here, including several who are representing U.S. congressmen who are in Washington this evening for some important votes that are going on. They will be around afterwards if you want to talk with them. They are running for U.S. Senate. Also, these guys I know will hang